All right, we're going to solve a quadratic inequality. This is a quadratic inequality because the x squared tells us it's a quadratic. The inequality because we have an inequality symbol. If this was an equal symbol, this would be a quadratic equation. So, to solve quadratic inequalities, we first want everything on the left side, 0 on the right. So let me subtract 30 from both sides. And we get x squared minus x minus 30 is greater than 0. And we factor. What two numbers multiply to negative 30 but add to negative 1? Well, our numbers are negative 6 and positive 5. Multiply to negative 30 but add to negative 1. Next, on the number line, plot the points where these are 0. This factor is 0 when x is 6. This factor is 0 when x is negative 5. Now, what we want to do is we want to find the sign of each factor on, let me just put this dotted line here as a divider. We want to find the sign of each of these numbers on each of these intervals. Why? Because if one is positive and one is negative, well, when you multiply a positive times a negative, you get a negative which is less than 0. If they're both positive, well, a positive times a positive is a positive which is greater than 0. It tells us what the solution is, yeah? So that's why we're doing this. So let me write down my two factors. Then I'm going to figure out what their sign. Are they positive or negative in each of these intervals? I'm going to multiply them to see is the result greater than 0. So down here, I'm going to multiply these two just to see what we get. So pick any number in this interval less than negative 5. Well, let me pick negative 10. I don't know. Negative 10 and negative 6 is negative 16. We don't care about the number. We just want the sign. Negative 10 plus 5 is also a negative. But when you multiply two negatives, a negative times a negative is a positive. So the overall value, when you multiply them, the overall value is positive. Now pick a number between negative 5 and 6. Negative 4, negative 3. I'm going to pick 0. 0 minus 6 is a negative. 0 plus 5 is a positive. Well, if this is negative and this is positive, a negative times a positive, the overall is a negative. This function is negative between negative 5 and 6. Now pick a number bigger than 6. Let me pick 7. You could pick 8 or 9, it doesn't matter. 7 minus 6 is 1. 7 plus 5, we don't care about the sign. 7 minus 6 is a positive. 7 plus 5 is a positive. If this is positive and this is positive, when I multiply them, I get a positive. All right, so now we just look at our three intervals and figure out which intervals is it greater than 0. Which intervals is it positive? It's positive down here, and it's positive up here. So how do we write that? Well, down here, those are all the x values that are less than negative 5. And it's positive for all x values bigger than 6. Usually, instructors want you to write your answer in interval notation. So using interval notation, this interval are all the numbers down there from negative infinity up to negative 5. Negative infinity up to negative 5. We always put parentheses around the infinities. There's no equal here, so we put a parentheses there. Then we use this union symbol, but think of the word or. So it's all the numbers from negative infinity to negative 5, or we could use all the numbers bigger than 6, which are all the numbers from 6 to infinity. So all the numbers from 6 to infinity. Again, there's no equal here, so we use a parentheses. So this is our answer right here if we were to write our answer in interval notation. This is where it's positive. Now, how does that connect with the graph? If I were to graph y equals x squared minus x minus 30, this is what it's going to look like. The graph of y equals x squared minus x minus 30, it's going to cross the x-axis at -5, and at +6, it's going to look like this. Notice the graph is below the x-axis. Those are negative y values. This function is negative between -5 and 6. It's above the x-axis. Those are positive y values here and here. Here, those are all the numbers from -infinity to -5, and then all the numbers bigger than 6. So that's what we're finding, and that's how it connects to the graph after we get our solution.